The nonsense about this being a Republican or Democrat issue has got to stop. When the bullets shoot you, God forbid they should ever hit one of your kids. When the bullets shoot you, they don't know if you're a Republican or Democrat. They only know they're likely to kill you. And we need to agree on that.
So right there you see the recent meeting between Ted Cruz, activist Alyssa Milano, and Fred Guttenberg, who's making a devastating and powerful point there. And thankfully for our audience, he now joins us on the Damage Report. Fred, welcome back.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's obviously a very tense day, but we're very excited to have you here, especially coming off of this really important meeting. I'm curious,
Sure.
going into the meeting, like what were your expectations?
I didn't go in there with a lot of expectations other than the senator and I having an opportunity to see each other as just two people on different sides of the room. There's no doubt about it, but two people who hopefully share a goal of wanting to reduce gun violence in this country and the amount of people who are dying because of gun violence in this country. Everything, beyond that in terms of how to handle it, I really didn't expect us to come to agreement on in that meeting.
I have to say, I did like your strategy that was displayed there in that clip. And like very often coming from the other side, we have to try to stimulate empathy on the part of the other side. And obviously you try to talk about it in terms of his family. You tragically lost your own daughter in the Parkland shooting, so you know as well as anyone can what that's actually like. And so I'm curious, like how would you rate how it went? Did it seem like he had an open mind during the meeting?
You know what? My hope is that if the Senate actually does take something up, that he could potentially now be someone who would support it. He definitely has different positions on how to do this. But I do believe this. If you look at all of his Twitter before that meeting, he refers to people like me as against the Second Amendment, as wanting to take away his rights to defend himself. That's been removed as an argument. And I hope that was made clear to him. There's nobody trying to remove his right to defend himself. There's nobody trying to remove his rights to the Second Amendment, which I believe in. I am simply trying to find a way to connect with him to keep those who intend to kill away from weapons.
And that is obviously a laudable goal. It's a tough one with him. I mean, I don't hide the fact that he's one of the Republicans I have the least interest in the Senate because of his commentary about a number of issues, including this one. But now we do have Congress back in session, and all the signs from the media are people want to make a deal. The Democrats are coming in, fired up, they're ready to go. Maybe Mitch McConnell will allow something. If you had to make a prediction at this point, what do you think the likelihood is that either sort of shallow gun control will pass or something significant will pass?
The only element in this entire process right now that gives me hope with regards to the Senate is the fact that Senator Chris Murphy has stayed so deeply involved in it, because I have faith in him. I don't in Mitch McConnell. When Mitch McConnell says things such as, well, the way it works in this town is we have to wait on the president for direction. That is a sellout of democracy. That's a sellout of his constitutional obligations. The way we all grew up learning about democracy was that the House and the Senate, they put together their versions of a bill. They come up with a bill that they can agree on. They send it to the president for a signature. That's the way it's supposed to work. And Mitch McConnell is giving up on his constitutional obligations. I'm also getting annoyed with the Democrats in the Senate, especially those running for president, who have the opportunities to use the theater of their office to put more pressure on him and to do more than just say, we need to wait on Mitch.
Yeah, I certainly agree. So you know what? We have a great opportunity here later today. There's going to be a debate. If we're lucky, fingers crossed, there will be one question about gun control. What would you like to hear a candidate say today? What stance would you like a candidate to take?
I would like to hear the candidates talk about the most pressing risk with weapons, and that's the 300 million that are already out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because background checks work to deal with the future of purchases. How are we going to deal with the reality that there's 300 million weapons already out there? So for sure, background checks are part of dealing with that, but we also need to seriously deal with extreme risk protection orders. We need to ban high capacity magazines. And I also want to hear them talk about ammunition. If you want to deal with the 300 million that are out there, you must deal with ammunition. That's why I've been fighting so hard for Jamie's Law, which would extend background checks to ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're a prohibited purchaser of firearms, but maybe you're already in possession of firearms or you're getting them through private transfer, they don't work without bullets. And the problem is prohibited purchasers of firearms are also prohibited from buying ammunition, but there's no requirement for a background check for them to do so.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that Mitch McConnell is at least saying, whether it's true or not, that I can't act until Donald Trump lets me know what he'll allow, which is exactly the dereliction of his responsibility to the American people. Yeah. And look, Donald Trump has retreated even recently from some of his past positions where he pretends he's okay with background checks when the NRA gives him a phone call. So I'm curious, so you're so tapped into this. It seems like the NRA has been damaged quite a bit over the past few years, and yet they still have their foot on Donald Trump.
Listen, they do. And I ultimately think the NRA members are going to rise up because the NRA has been damaged because they've misrepresented their membership and they've handled their membership terribly. The NRA has served the purpose of gun sellers only. They've taken membership dues. They've used it on things like haircuts and vacations and suits and trying to buy a house for Wayne LaPierre, but they've not served their members. Think if the NRA was true to their word about wanting to do the right thing, they would actually be the biggest proponents of a gun safety message. They would want to keep the guns out of the hands of killers as well. But they're lying, and they deserve the punishment they're getting. And the fact that our current occupant of the White House refuses to release the grip that they have on him is pretty pathetic. But candidly, for me, he is irrelevant right now. The person who needs to step up is Mitch McConnell.
I couldn't agree more on a number of different issues, actually, but especially on this one. Fred Guttenberg, as always, thank you so much for your advocacy on this issue and for joining us today on the show.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.